Hello there, and welcome back to the Music Career Show. Today's guest is a wonderful new friend of mine that I made through a previous guest that I had on the podcast. It's kind of like podcast inception sort of job, and I really like that. I think it's a wonderful thing. She is a professional cellist from London, originally from Devon, who has played with the likes of Ed Sheeran, Robbie Williams, and Sam Ryder, to name but a few, as well as previously working alongside the likes of Netflix, Rolls-Royce, and UEFA, which I think is the coolest intro I've ever read out for anybody, which is class. So this is the lovely Isobelle Austin. Good morning, good afternoon. What time are we at? Good morning, Isobelle. How are you?
Hi, I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Good stuff. I'm smashing. I'm all the better now for seeing your lovely smiling face on my telly. So, Isobelle, for those who maybe haven't heard of you just yet, why don't you introduce yourself to all the lovely people?
Okay, sure. So, I'm a freelance cellist. I'm living in London at the moment, and I do a huge variety of work.
Hmm.
I do solo stuff. I play with groups, string quartets, orchestras, ensembles, singers. I've actually worked regularly with two really great up and coming singers, but I also get called in for sessions with, very well established people like you said earlier. I've done some
Yeah,
stuff for Robbie Williams. I did actually do a job for Adele as well once, which was very cool. And yeah, I just have a huge range of stuff going on all the time. One of the really interesting jobs I actually did in the last couple of weeks was doing this a hand doubling job for an Apple TV show, and yeah, I just there's all sorts of different things coming in all the time. I also do weddings and events, and I'm very open to any kind of cello work. So I just love it. So yeah,
brilliant.
that's me.
That's that. I love that. Like I said before we started recording, I said to Isobelle that like I've interviewed some really cool people. In fact, everybody I've interviewed so far has been really cool. And but would some of them would be bigger names, and I don't think I've ever seen a bio as varied and as interesting and as cool as what yours is, Isabel. So I'm dying to get stuck into all that stuff. Really quick on the hand doubling. So
Yeah.
what is before we actually get stuck into all the proper talking points that we have prepared, what is a hand double and who are you hand doubling for? Who is your identical hand twin?
So, I was hand doubling for a show. I'm actually, unfortunately, it's confidential, all the details until it gets
Ooh.
to be a year later. So I
Okay.
can't any names. But it
Right.
was a female actor who looked slightly similar to me, and her character was a cellist, and the lady acting was not a cellist. So they wanted to do some close-ups of her playing the cello, and they basically got me in for that. They put me in these gorgeous outfits, which she was wearing. I put on this really beautiful Dolce& and Gabbana skirt, which I got to spend the day in, and it just felt so it feels like quality. It felt so soft on my skin, and I was just yeah, it was really fun. And then they did some close-ups of my hands, and obviously the reason I had the outfit on is because they get a bit of my body in as well behind the cello, but they didn't use my face, so they'll put her face with
Yeah,
my
yeah.
shots of the hand, and yeah, that will be that's how it works really.
That's I don't even know what to do with that information. That's amazing. Every day is such a school day, and I learned so much about like the entertainment and media industry and the music industry from talking to all of you cool people. But that is that's top notch stuff. That is hand double.
I mean,
Amazing.
it was quite funny because I wouldn't say, as a cellist or as any string player or probably musician, I don't think hands are the most kind of elegant part of your body because you're using them so much. And I would never have thought that I would be getting a job based on my hands. So that was pretty hilarious. I had to send in pictures of my hands, and apparently they matched. And yeah, I got the job.
That is absolutely crazy. You're literally in a market of one there. Like you
Yeah.
are like yeah, like that's crazy. That's crazy. I always speak about like niches and stuff like that, whereas you are literally that niche. And that's fantastic. I love
Oh.
that. Cool. Right. Well, that's just we can end it there now. That's brilliant. Anyway, no, let's not end it there. Let's actually It's actually, like I always say, let's reverse back a little bit, and why don't you tell us where did music all start for you? So how did you get into music in the first place?
So, my parents, they both went to the Royal Academy of Music, which is where they met, and they both music's been a huge part of their life, and
Hmm.
so it was just the obvious thing to do to bring up their children playing musical instruments. My dad's main instrument was the piano, but he did play a little bit of cello when he was younger, and he still had a cello banging around the house. And I think I don't know, I just remember absolutely, you know, being desperate to play the cello, and
Right.
it was the best thing ever when I, turned 6 on my birthday, and I went to my bedroom, and there was a little baby cello on my bed, and that was my birthday
Oh,
present. So, yeah, I guess I just for some reason, I just always felt drawn to it, and I knew that I wanted to play it. So that
very
was
good.
yeah.
And so with your parents going to the Royal Academy of Music, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, with your parents both being professional musicians, did they teach it? Did you go to lessons? Did you teach yourself? What was your
I had lessons. Yeah, I had regular lessons. Um, yeah, I mean, they're not professional cellists, and my dad only got to a certain level, so
yeah,
they wouldn't have been able to teach me.
fair
But
enough.
I guess yeah, so I had the encouragement from them, especially when it was tough and I didn't want to practice.
Yep, absolutely fantastic. So then how did your kind of your music, so your music career essentially started when you were 6. It wasn't maybe intended as a career at that stage. It
Right.
was what. No, definitely not. You were far too concerned with things like, I'd imagine, the same as I was when I was 6. Pokemon and Power Rangers and Powerpuff Girls and all other children related things beginning with P, which is a very strange thing to say. But anyway, um yeah, so I'd imagine, so you started when you were 6 and you learned and you were doing lessons. Was there ever anything else on the cards to do when you grew up, or was it you were going to play cello and you're going to be a cellist and that was it?
No, there was absolutely other things on the cards. It was never my plan to be a full-time musician. It's never my
Oh,
plan to be a professional musician. I did it because, I enjoy playing. It was part of my upbringing, and
yeah.
um, by the time I was 18, although I found a lot of joy from it, I didn't think that I was good enough to be a professional. And
Mm,
I also didn't know how many possibilities are available as a professional musician. I thought it was only teaching or orchestra player, and none
yep.
of those particularly, they didn't make me feel passionate about it. And I just thought, I don't want to waste my time studying music when I don't feel there's a job which really suits me. Um, so I actually did my undergrad in business management,
Oh,
thinking that that would open many doors for me because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I felt it was quite a broad topic. And while I was doing my business management degree, I didn't play a lot of the cello, but I actually didn't enjoy the degree, and it took up a lot of my time.
mm,
It wasn't my forte. I there was a lot of essays, and I'm quite good at maths. I thought there would be more accounting stuff, but it was mostly essays, and that's really not my forte at all. So I
yeah,
ended up not liking it, and I kind of felt by the time my 3-year course was coming to an end, I just felt a bit like my soul had been sucked out of me, and there wasn't this kind of
yeah.
passion and fire and energy that I know I definitely have felt before.
Mm,
And I remember being, back at my parents' house after my final degrees, and I just thought, "Oh, like, I'm just gonna have a go at playing the cello again. I haven't played it for a while. I'm just gonna pick it up." And just the first moment my bow touched the string, I just felt this incredible happiness and lightness fill my body, and I just knew at that point that I had to do whatever I could, whatever it takes to try and make a career out of it. Otherwise, I
yeah,
would for the rest of my life. So that's really, yeah, that's what happened.
yeah. That's so
And
interesting.
yeah,
That's so interesting that you should say that. That's literally, if I'm ever having a day where, like, obviously I run a business aside from doing this podcast, and very, very little of my job anymore is actually playing music, unfortunately, and most of it is running the business. But if there's ever a day where I'm just like, everything's either going wrong, or it's just a very overwhelming day, or it's just an awful lot's going on, I'll just take 5 minutes and I'll just go and play guitar. And like you said, the first moment the bow touches the strings, as soon as I plug in the guitar and it sounds cool and it makes that noise that I heard in my head when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's just
yeah.
lovely. Um, Still though, having a degree in business management must come in handy.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, for a while, I didn't see the benefit of it at all, and I just thought, I'm so upset that I wasted 3 years when I could have been getting ahead with my music, and it was really something that I had to kind of
Mm,
overcome. But I do feel now that it was one thing there was one thing in particular which I think my business degree taught me, and it was that if you want to if you want your business to be found, you have to make it available for people to find it, right? So I
mhm.
can't just sit in my practice room and practice and expect to get jobs, because nobody's going to know about me, nobody's going to know about how I can play, nobody's going to book me. So
Mm,
I did actually do a master's in uh, I did a master's in cello performance at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, and I did
mm.
that after my business degree.
Cool.
And yeah, and that's kind of when I really got my playing up to a much better standard, and so that I was able to do professional work. And during the degree, during the masters, because of my business degree, I was already putting out, you know, videos of my playing, building up my
Uh-huh.
social media, starting to take on work, even though starting to take on work of any form, because I knew that it would help to build out my experience and
Mhm.
my portfolio. So I think in that respect it did help, because I think it's very difficult to um, put out your music and your playing, especially when you're studying, because it's such a vulnerable thing, and you're not where you want to be, and
Yeah.
you feel like you're going to be criticized. But although I still had all these feelings, I had um, the awareness that I didn't need to be putting it out if I wanted to get any work, and if I wanted to, start building a career. So I think that was a big thing that I did learn from my degree.
I was listening there to you and I was just like, that is like, if ever anyone was out there listening and thinking, "Oh, I'm not good enough," or like what you were saying, it's a very, very vulnerable thing, and us as musicians,
Mm.
we all most of us tend to be quite introverted,
Yeah.
um, and shy, and, like, I always say that I'm a very, very shy person. I don't present as shy because I've learned to, like, deal with being shy. I've like, I never sat down and says, "Right, I'm going to learn how to not be shy." You don't. You just learn how to cope and how to do it. And I'm good at talking, and I'm good at putting myself across, but I'm a very, very shy person. And yeah, just hearing you say that, it's sort of it's nice. And I think anyone out there listening and that needed to hear that, just go and get it done. You almost sort of have to. I always say you always have to dress for the job you want rather than the job you have. And if that means just allowing yourself to be vulnerable, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's completely and utterly okay. It's in fact, it's probably better to be vulnerable than to think you're the dog's bollocks and be like, oh, look how fucking class I am. I can play guitar behind me head backwards. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And look how cool I am. Do you know what I mean? That's it's better to be vulnerable because it shows that you actually do genuinely care and you're really, really trying to do it the right way. So that was nice to hear. That was really nice to hear. And I hope anyone out there that needed to hear that has heard it and it's resonated with them. So you were working away, you were putting yourself out there, you were hoping to get work. Did you have let me see. What am I trying to get at? Did you have like not an end plan, but did you have like did you have a picture in your head of what your job was going to be? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean, and the answer is absolutely not.
Lovely.
I just knew, because of this feeling of having not played, not followed, um, becoming a cellist, and
Mm,
over those years, and how much it meant to me to be playing it again. I didn't my goal was to earn a living being a cellist, and I didn't know any other details other than that, and I thought, I they can work themselves out. If I keep working at the cello, keep trying to find, any work I can, keep putting things out there, I will be unbelievably happy if I'm just able to earn a living being a cellist. And that's where I'm at. And I always thought I'd probably be a freelance cellist, because I do love the variety of having different work, different weeks, different days. I mean, not a single day of mine is the same. I believe that doing different kinds of jobs can positively affect other types of jobs, because you bring in different things that you learn,
yeah,
and I just really love that. So
yeah. Variety is the spice of life, as the fella says.
exactly.
Great. So what was then your so like all of us musicians, I think what you said there is so spot on that like, and I speak about this on every single episode. And I always said people are probably sick of hearing me saying it, but when I was a kid, I wanted to be a rock star. That was my end goal because that was the language that I used. Like what you're saying is that you wanted to be a cellist. You wanted to play a cello and you wanted that to provide you with your living, and that's great. I said I wanted to be a rock star, but I meant the exact same thing when I think about it as what you've just said.
Yeah.
But there was the catalyst for me being able to make that my career was that I went to Spain. I moved to Spain when I was 19, and I'd done 2 seasons in Salou, where I'm just back from holiday. But I done 2 seasons there in Irish pubs and stuff like that. I know that's a whole other story for another day, but that was what actually solidified my status as a musician. Barry, what do you do for a living? I play music. What happened for you to make that your career? Was there a big sort of thing that happened? Or was it just a series of little things, or how did that come about for you? When did it become sustainable is probably what I'm trying to ask.
Okay. I mean, I actually think it was a build up over time for me because, like I said, I started taking jobs while I was in college, and
Mhm.
I was doing weddings both as a solo
Yeah.
cellist and with a string quartet. I was actually touring with a band during for 3 or 4 months while I was at college, but it was a UK kind of um, tour. So it would be Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays in the UK. So it's not like I was missing out on my college week.
Mm.
So I was able to do them both. And I think that was, to be honest, probably just having this work come in during college made me realize I'm being paid as a professional to do professional work. So
Mhm.
I can surely build this and make this work and just get more of this when I'm not at college and when I have more time to do more work, more
Good
paid
stuff.
work. Because
Yeah, of course. So it's just a gradual build up, and there was no big sort of. But that's yeah, slow and steady wins the race. There was that's great that it worked out for you. I suppose in the sort of I'm a guitar player. There are a million of me. There are a million lads that are 10 times better than me. There are a million lads that are 100 times better than me, and there's probably a million lads that are nowhere near at the level that I'm at. When it comes to cello, you, I think, are the only cello player that I know or know of. So, is it like, is that an advantage, or is there a reason why we don't know as many cello players? Do you know what I'm asking? And I mean that in the most respect possible.
yeah, I think cello, it tends to be a classical instrument. You're classically
Yeah.
trained, and when you're classically trained, the pathway tends to be being a professional orchestra musician, or being a teacher.
Mm,
However, I think because I just absolutely adore playing the cello, and like I've said to you, I don't mind what form that comes in. If I'm playing the
mm,
cello, I'm just the happiest person in the world. So I think, but maybe also because I did my business management degree, so I wasn't learning all the orchestral excerpts and all the um I wasn't having that input during those years. Maybe that
yeah.
left feeling a bit more open to other possibilities. But I'm not really sure. I think the cello can be extremely versatile, and um, I don't know if it's because most people who do it go through classical training and they see these parts and they
Mm.
don't see beyond those. I'm not really sure, but but for me, it's just I feel it's such a beautiful instrument, and I feel it can be used in so many different ways, and I like making the most out of that. So
Yeah. Good stuff. One of the coolest things I was so like you're saying, you grow up your class you sorry, you go through classical training and all that kind of crack, and you're kind of it's kind of like the nuclear family sort of effect that you grow up, you get married, you have a couple of kids. That's the general sort of life progression. Same for a classically trained musician, so violinist, cellist, mandolin player, whatever classical instrument you take on. You grow up as a cellist, and you go on and you join an orchestra, or you become a teacher, and that's just sort of it. But one of the coolest things that I ever saw, and what made a real impact in the way that I view that sort of, not generic, but sort of accepted progression as a musician, was there was two guys. Was it two guys? It was a video basically of a band playing Thunderstruck with like electric cellos, and it was the coolest, one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like honestly, one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I was like, that's so clever. And then it was at that time that I was like, oh, that music. Do you know what I mean? You see like notation. You're like, oh, that's piano music, as
Mhm.
opposed to tablature, which is for guitar. That's guitar music. But it's like, no, it's not piano music or it's not cello music. It's music. And like what you're saying, you can apply your skills as a cellist to any sort of a situation that requires cello. I'm sure you could apply it to any amount of situations that require loads of other instruments or whatever else. So if someone is out there and they're in that sort of mindset and they're in that kind of classical mindset that, oh, I play cello or I play double bass or I play whatever, and they think they've got two career choices: to go and join an orchestra, to go and do a teacher, do a teaching or something along those lines. How? What advice would you give to that person to put that amount of variety into their life? Do you know what I'm trying? I've worded that horribly, but I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, I would say it really depends what, what lights you up about the cello, because there may be some people that really truly want to, they love orchestral playing, and that's all they want to do with their time. Same as being a teacher, and that's amazing, because we need those people. But
Yep,
if
100%.
if there's people who don't feel that calling towards those, but also feel a big passion towards playing the cello, I mean, honestly, I think you can do so much with it. You can do events, weddings, play with singers, songwriters. You can do recordings. You can get a home recording setup, and you can,
Mhm.
all sorts of composers, or you can do all sorts of recordings. Anyone that wants cello, you can do it, because you don't have to hire out a big expensive studio to do it.
Yep.
So there's just, yeah, I would just say explore what makes you feel good, and see what doors will open for you, because that's really, I mean, that's how I've done it,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah, probably what I was trying to ask there was that if you had to reverse engineer and do exactly and follow the same path that your career has taken, could you then reverse engineer it and say, right, okay, I ended up playing with Ed Sheeran, for example, right? How did I end up playing with Ed Sheeran? Is there a way that I could manufacture that opportunity again, or was that just pure pot luck that someone happened to see it, or you knew the right person, or what do you think?
I think it's a combination of things. It's I think luck has a part to play, but I think you've got to be ready for luck when it comes your way.
Yeah,
Like I worked really hard so that I was able to be in a position to take up that job when it came round. And I think you've got to just keep having faith and keep doing your best, and then opportunities are bound to arise, and then
yeah,
you can be absolutely ready to take them.
cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of, speaking of, how did you get working with Ed Sheeran?
Um,
What? Go on, no, go on.
yeah, sure. So basically, I managed to get in with an agent to provide strings for very big names, and he was looking for string players, including a cellist, and he was in touch with me, and it was super exciting. It was for the Brits last year, and it was, yeah, it was a great gig. It's really fun. It was live TV with Ed Sheeran, like huge bucket list things being ticked off for me, and yeah, it was really fun. I met lots of lovely people that are doing it as well. So
Fantastic. And then some of the other big names, Sam Ryder, Andrea Bocelli, Robbie Williams, all that sort of stuff. That was all through the same agent, was it?
yeah, it was actually, and uh, it's quite exciting. I'm doing another job with Sam Ryder this Friday.
Are you?
Tomorrow, in fact, yes, I'm doing a session with him. So yeah, it's really nice. It's actually, I had a very exciting job with him in January, where we were recording at Abbey Road Studios for MTV. So again, like huge, really amazing stuff to be involved
Yeah.
in, and it was such an amazing experience to record in Abbey Road. We were also recording in we actually did two sessions there, one in Studio 3, but one in Studio 2 as well, which is the famous studio where the Beatles did all
Yeah.
the recording. So it was, yeah, it felt really historical to be there and to be recording my sound in such a iconic place. So yeah, that was
That's
really fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You literally are the, like, you know, the way you hear about all these like really cool like session heads that are like the people that are, and I'm not saying unknown, but they're not the famous names off the top of do you know what I mean, off the top of your head, but like
Yeah.
the really really cool, really talented people that make those other people, the big names, the big name. You literally are that. That's just, oh,
Oh.
that's so cool. That's so cool. I don't even know where to go with any more of that. I genuinely don't even know where to go with that, because that's just honestly the coolest thing. Um, what are you working on with Sam Ryder? Are you allowed to say?
Um, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it'll be out pretty soon. We're doing a acoustic version of his latest single. It'll be him, string quartet, and a pianist. So that'll be really lovely. I think. Yeah.
Class. What did you do with Robbie Williams?
So I did a video for his tour. So it was really interesting, actually. Well, actually, yeah, this is a really funny story. So I was on the train to Glasgow.
Uh-huh.
I was actually doing a 3-4 day tour with this brilliant singer, Murdo Mitchell, who I work with.
That's how I
And
know you.
yes, yes. And on the train up, I received a message saying, "Are you free for a Robbie Williams shoot? It's within 2 days' time."
Uh,
Or yeah, it was in 2 days' time, and it was the day after my final show in Glasgow, and I needed to be in London at 9 a.m. for the call time. So I was thinking, I cannot turn this job down. Like, this is an
nope.
incredible opportunity. Um, how like it's not a question of can this work? It's a question of how will I make this work?
Yeah.
So I looked up flights, and I there was a reasonably priced flight with BA, which would have got me in at the right time. And obviously I needed to go take my cello with me, so that was 2 flight tickets, but it was definitely worth it. It wasn't crazy expensive at all. So
Mm.
I booked it, and I was all like, "Oh my gosh, phew. Right, okay, I'm making that work." Relief. And we got into our hotel room, just before we're about to rehearse, and I checked my details, and I realized I'd booked it for the wrong day. Um,
No.
Yes, I was horrified, and it was actually so that meant I would have got in the next morning rather than in 2 mornings' time, and obviously I couldn't do that because I missed my gig with Murdo.
Yeah.
So I then spent another, like half hour to an hour searching all the options, and incredibly, I found a coach which was travelling from Glasgow to London, leaving at 11 p.m., getting in at 7:15 a.m.
Oh
And yes,
God.
and I was
Yeah.
able, yeah, I was able to find out that it would allow my cello on, because some of them can be a bit funny and not let you on if you've got this big thing that's not been booked in, etc. So that was also a bit of a stress, but got around that. Anyway, I was like, I was quite terrified because you never know what's going to happen on the road. There could be accidents, traffic jams, and when I got
That's
in,
Fire Anton.
yeah, and when I got in at 7:15 to London, I needed to go home to get this and a suitable outfit for the shoot, which was going to take me about an hour and a half. So I was cutting it very fine in time. So I would
Uh-huh.
hope to get there around, I would have 15 minutes at home and then get there at 9 on the dot. And the hilarious thing is, my bus was early. It was about 10 to 15 minutes early. I managed to get back to mine pretty quickly, get all my stuff together. Just get out of the house as soon as possible. And the thing that made me 10 minutes late was the tubes being delayed. Just for
No
like,
way.
they have these little delays and they don't move. And I was just
Yeah.
thinking all the things that could have gone wrong. I couldn't believe that that was the one thing that made me late. I mean, it didn't matter because we didn't get going till around 10 anyway. Nobody even kind of blinked their eye. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a bit of a crazy ride. But
Man.
I'm super
No.
happy it worked.
Yeah.
But going back to your initial question, it basically was a video. Um, there was a small string orchestra recording about 3 or 4 tracks for him, which were going to be, have been used on his tour, projected on the really big screen, while he's singing these songs. So we got massive, massive versions of our faces and bodies on these huge screens, and that was what the shoot was for.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
did you meet Robbie?
No, he wasn't there, but I did do a similar thing for Westlife where we did video for their tour, and they were there on premises also filming. So you know, you never know if the artist is going to be there or not.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
class. I just don't know what to do with that information. I honestly don't, 'cause that's just so you just like you're just so casual, and I know you're not name dropping at all, but it's just so it's just the nature of what you do. But it's just it's class. That's so class. Speaking
Oh,
of the most random things that a musician can do,
yeah.
you work for or you have worked for Netflix.
Yes.
Is that right? So what have you done with Netflix?
So I did recording with a string quartet.
Mhm.
And then so it was actually a really fun gig. So um we recorded Spring by Vivaldi in a studio in London on a Sunday. And then on the
Yeah.
Monday we were out in a beautiful location at a grand manor house, um all dressed in these outfits to suit um the film the film that we were playing for,
Yeah.
and we were miming then to our own recording. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to that they used our sound, because you can often get booked in for gigs where you're miming for TV shows and films, but you know, to know that your sound's also being used is just like such a lovely feeling, because that's ultimately we're musicians because of the sound, not
Of
because
course. Yeah.
we look like we can play. So
Exactly.
that was a really great one. Yeah.
What what film was it?
Again, unfortunately, I can't tell you because it's not
Gosh.
going to be out till January, and I've signed a confidentiality agreement. So, but if anyone's interested to find out what they are, these two things from January, you're welcome to drop me a message in January when they're released.
In January. So so
Yeah.
if it so it's currently the 1st of June 2023. Isabel's episode. Well, you're probably listening to this at the earliest, maybe the start of July 2023. So if you're dying to find out like I am, we're all gonna have to wait at least 6 months. If you're listening to this in 2024, then by all means give Isabel a shout and oh boo. Right, you're right. That's two now. So you're gonna have to give me something else. You're gonna have to drop something really, really, really cool now. So is there anything that like you can speak about that's like a really, really cool flex?
Um,
Because once all these things come out, like that's they're like, especially being on Netflix and Apple TV and all that, that's a flex and a half. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's really fun. Um, I mean, I guess the Apple TV hand doubling job would be quite a cool one, but we've already touched on that. But yeah, I mean, other exciting things that I are happening, which maybe isn't quite a a TV or film flex, is that I'm working, as I mentioned earlier, with these up and coming artists. One of them's called Cinderella Balthazar, the other one's Mado Mitchell, and it's really nice to be part of groups which are organically working together, where we're releasing music where I'm writing the cello lines, and so it's a real
uh
contribution for on my behalf, and it's like I'm involved in the process. And so there are two things that I'm really excited about, which it's going to be a more of a longer process, but it's something that I will have been involved in more of the foundations for. So that's a slightly different thing that also brings me fulfillment in my work, which I don't know
okay.
whether it reflects or not, but it's something that, yeah,
No, 100%, absolutely 100%.
yeah,
Which sort of brings me on to the next point. So you were saying that no 2 weeks are the same for you. Every day is totally, totally different.
yeah.
Where then does the like kind of the sustainability and the reliability of that sort of lifestyle come into it? No, I know obviously I'm not questioning that in any way, shape, or form. I'm applauding that and I'm in awe of it and I absolutely love it. Um but like you say, it is a very varied role. One day you're someone's hand, the next day you're in a stadium on someone's telly. Do you know what I mean? So like where is the sustainability in that and the reliability in that for anybody that's interested?
Yeah, no, that's a totally valid question, and basically for me, it's in weddings and events. I do
Ah,
lots of weddings, lots of events, and that's definitely the thing that, if I don't have anything else coming in, I know I've got, X amount of weddings and corporate events, and that's like I'm still gonna be earning enough.
yeah,
So yeah, so that's really because all of these amazing, exciting jobs, you like, yeah, it's true, you never know when they're gonna come in.
yeah.
But also in working, especially with the singer Cinderella, I'm actually on a retainer with her, and so I have a regular income from her as well. And so that, as well as the consistent weddings and events I'm doing, creates sustainability for me.
Brilliant. That answered that question perfectly. So it's like me listening to this as someone that's not really in that sector that has that sort of, we'll say, reliable income and all that kind of. Compared to what you're doing, I have a really boring job. Do you know what I mean? But someone else that's listening to this and this is all resonating with them, if I'm trying to think outside the box for them and think how they can actually make this work. So it is nice to know that it is literally as simple as just do your normal gigs as well. Your
Yeah,
normal gigs
I
can
really
be your like fallback. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, and I think if I wasn't doing them, it would probably be quite stressful, and it would be probably quite an unhealthy way to live because
Mm,
you're with some of the work, you're depending on other people to decide that they want you to do it, and they might not always
mm,
choose you. And that's a
mm.
that's a really horrible feeling because it's like, it's like, what, are they always going to choose me? Well, what if they don't? Because if I'm relying on that, then I'm screwed. So I think it's really important to have something that you have created for yourself and that you're bringing in for yourself. Otherwise, and that brings a real feeling of groundedness and security. And I think it's really very much needed.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. There's so much to be said for that. And then
Yeah.
so for your regular, we'll call it your 9 to 5, for example, right? Just your weddings, your corporate events and that. Do you book all those yourself? How do you keep busy? How do
Yeah.
you keep the calendar full like?
To be honest, most of them I'm booking myself. I'm on a number of agencies, and I'm also a recommended supplier for a
Yeah.
number of um, agencies, and I'm also put myself on some agency websites. So it's just basically that really, and just yeah, just making sure I'm showing up and I'm bookable basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know exactly what you mean. When I got married, we
Yeah.
were only not it's not that we were only allowed to use one of 3 caterers. This was just
Okay.
kind of, it's like, these are our recommended suppliers. These are the ones that know the venue inside and out. And I would imagine as a musician, now I don't do enough weddings to be even be considered for that sort of a thing. But I would imagine as a musician, it's sort of the same thing where they would recommend, oh, the couple coming are like, oh, we're looking for music. Have you got any recommendations? Right. Well, we've got Isobelle. She knows the place inside and out. She does X, Y, and Z. Is that sort of
Yeah.
the same situation? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's sort.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm on the websites as well. So I've just, if someone's looking for a musician and they don't know where to go and they trust this site, then
yeah.
there's an option for them.
And
Yeah.
then, so on a practical note, how much of your work do you think would come from that side rather than someone seeing you playing a game? So, for example, me, anytime anyone books me or my band for a wedding, it's because they've seen us play. It's not because anyone has recommended. It's very rarely because any venue has recommended or people have recommended us from friends or anything like that. It's people going, they see us play. So if I ever have a private event, that's where it comes from, right? 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
But what's the split like for you? Is it more geared towards being a recommended supplier, or is it more geared towards people finding you? Or what's the have you ever even thought of that?
I would say yeah, no, I'd probably say it's more towards being a recommended supplier, but that's definitely not the only way. I would say
Yeah.
maybe between um, between 60 and 70% recommended supplier, and between 30 and 40% of the other, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's really good to know because then if me as a potential someone that would like to become a recommended supplier, it's good to know that that's all. It's sort of, if you're saying it's between 60 and 70% of your bookings for that type of thing comes from being a recommended supplier, that means that a good chunk of your sort of marketing and advertising is being done for you, and you're actually getting paid for that pleasure as well. Do you know what I mean? Or for that privilege as well.
I mean, I would slightly disagree because
Okay.
although they put my name on their website, there's not much about me on their website usually, and it's all linked to my own stuff. So I have to
Oh,
put in the work to make sure that what I've got up is appealing, and that's what will make people book me. So it's my website, my Instagram, my YouTube, and that's because otherwise they don't have much to go off, just a
well, that's
picture and
true.
a smooth. So I would say I think, although it's incredible that they've got me on their site, that's not enough for people to book me. They
Yeah.
need to see me playing. They need to hear, what it sounds like, and
Yeah.
that's down to me putting up the correct stuff on my
Okay.
social. Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody listening out there in the podcast world, do not listen to a single word I've said. Listen to exactly what Isabelle has said there. So basically, it doesn't really matter where the work is coming from. People still need to be able to see that it's you that's doing it. It's you that's playing. It's you it's you.
Yeah, they need to hear your sound, otherwise, how do they know what they're booking, And in this day and age, it's so easy to put up a video or a
Oh yeah.
recording. So many options to hear people. So why would they book someone who hasn't got that available? It makes no sense. So I think
Yeah.
that's a really important thing.
Absolutely. What would you say to the people out there that are, so here's some standard excuses that I use myself, and I call myself out on my own bullshit, but I've heard other people say, don't have time to be putting up stuff. I've got all this other stuff on the go. I don't have time to be putting up stuff on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. I don't know how to record. Sure, I only have a phone. And insert any other bullshit excuse there. What would you
Yeah.
say to those people?
I mean, I would say I agree. I know the feeling. It's horrible,
Mhm.
and it's you do have to put time into it, but like you've got to decide what's important to you. Is it important for you to get work and have a career as a musician? Because if it is, you need to make that time, even if it means you're working up until 10, 12 at night. Sometimes,
Mhm.
you have to make that commitment, and it will pay off. And then you won't have to do that your whole life, but there is a time where you might have to be working crazy hours because that's what
Mhm.
sometimes it will take. So it basically depends if you want to commit to that and how much you want to be a musician, if that's what's going to get you there.
Yeah, it's a very, very common theme throughout all the guests that I've ever asked. This is that it's consistency. It's just be willing to put stuff up. Just be willing to put the time. It comes down to good old fashioned elbow grease and like work ethic and stuff like that. People
Exactly.
often there was such a misconception about. There is still such a misconception about musicians like, oh, you just go and play on a Saturday night, have the crack and have pints, and sure, that's you. It is so little to actually do with that, and when people find out all of the extra stuff that goes into it, people are like, they only ever see the end product.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know. If only it were that easy.
if only it was that easy. People don't see the 10 years worth of practicing you've put in. So in order
Yeah,
for you to be able to go and do that 3-hour gig and have pints and have the crack, you have to have 10 years worth of experience. No, you don't have to, but there is 10 years, 15 years, 20 years worth of experience and practice gone into that to make that look as to be able to do the job that you're doing. So it's always nice to have that reaffirmed for myself as much as anybody else that needs to
yeah,
hear it, that you just need to be willing to do it, and there's no quick fix. There's no real way of getting out of that.
yeah,
Um that's all absolutely amazing stuff, Isabel. I'm delighted to have heard all of that and I've heard all of your stories. Before we head into a quick fire round, have you got anything that you're working on at the moment, or what's the next steps for you?
Um, so I have started working with a composer. We're going to be writing some music together for film and TV, which will be
Uh-huh.
really exciting. It's definitely in its early stages, but I have done recordings for film and TV before, and I absolutely love doing them. recording is another area of my work that I absolutely love and I want to continue developing. And I don't know if I mentioned earlier that I released a cinematic cello sample sound library. So
Oh, I have it written here. I completely glossed over it. Yes, sorry, I really wanted to hear about that.
yeah,
So fire away, fire away.
yeah. So like that was really that was a very new experience for me when I recorded that. I did it a couple of years ago, and I've never recorded a cello sound library, and I guess it's not the funnest actually doing a library. I prefer recording, beautiful,
Hmm.
loud, emotive, passionate, kind of like there's some of the film and TV stuff I've done, but um, it's really fascinating to hear the sounds that have been created as a result. And it's definitely very much focused on creating soundscapes. So like, the uh, kind of creating moods for things like documentaries and all sorts of interesting sounds. So that was really fun. It's really fun to see the results of that. But I'm also excited to now being going into creating tracks and music. And hopefully, in the long run, I might end up hearing them used. So we'll see about that. But yeah, that's a kind of new thing that I'm just getting started on, and I'm also thinking about potentially putting on a recital at some point. Again, it's about finding the time to practice for it and put together a
Hmm.
program. I don't know when it will happen, but it's a goal of mine at some point. So yeah, and then obviously continue
Brilliant.
all the other stuff I'm getting involved in as well.
Yeah. Let's go back and actually touch on that point about the sound library,
Yeah,
because that's something that I've heard of. There was another guest I had on. He had done this is way back at the start, but he had done something similar. So for anyone that doesn't really know what a sound library is, it's like just a set of like stock sounds. So like if you hear, I don't know. I don't even know. Like kind of sort of sound effects is maybe the way that most people would be able to process what a sound library is. But imagine sound effects, but imagine it was with like cello, or like there was like just like little melodic lines. Maybe you'd be better explaining what the sound library actually is, and then I can ask you some questions on it.
it's just it's basically textures, it's basically textures created on the cello, and they're all different. And I did some quite unusual techniques, like I was using my fingers to kind of hit really near the bridge while at the same time tapping my right hand fingers on the neck, and that's just like, and then on top of that I also did unusual bowing techniques. I did flautando sounds, vibrato. I think one of the sounds was vibrato changing width. There's all sorts of crazy stuff on there, and I actually can't remember all of them right off the top of my
Yeah,
head, but it just creates really unusual sounds. And I think when you use the sound library, you can also um, you can put a couple of the sounds together, and you can add like some electronic sounds as well. So there's all sorts of scope for creating basically endless possibilities with the texture. And yeah, I think that's really exciting.
yeah, that's so cool. So like, I always found that fascinating. When I heard about it first, it's such a clever way of like essentially creating almost passive income. Like I can't imagine it's a huge amount of income, but it's still passive income all the same. But
Yeah.
like, how do you, if anyone's interested in that, how do you go about planning a sound library?
Well, so I was actually approached by a company, Inlet Audio, who I've done the sound library, and I did a recording for the founder, and he absolutely loved my playing, and
Mm,
he said, "I'd really love you to create a cello sound library with us. Would you be interested?" And I thought, yeah, like I said to you, I'm open to anything that involves playing the cello, and you never know what things
yeah.
can lead to. So I said, yeah, absolutely, let's give it a go.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So in terms of how you recorded the sound library then, did you just record it at home? Did you have to go to a fancy studio? What did you do?
Yeah, no, I did it in my old place in London. I had mic that I always use, and I also borrowed 2 overhead mics, very good quality ones, which and I had that 3 mics set up, and that was enough. So
That was enough. So it literally can be something that's done from home.
yeah,
That's so cool.
I know
It's great. It's great that the time we live in, isn't it?
it is really amazing what you can do with technology. Yeah, really, really amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah, yeah. Imagine we were born in like the 60s and we had to do everything like by hand almost. Weird.
Yeah, and
I get like
and I was gonna say it's really cool, like, what you're saying about this technology thing because, it's actually enabled me to have, be on the books for a, um, recording company who do trailers in LA. I'm basically I'm a remote recording artist for them, and, I would never be able to do that if it wasn't for, the technology and me being able to record with my own setup because there's no way they'd be flying me out to LA and then
no.
hiring out these big studios. So like it
Yeah.
is really quite incredible and you never know what kind of opportunities can arise. So yeah, it's a very exciting time to live
In
in.
the in the past 55 minutes, I have learned more about different opportunities that are now in the music industry than I think I have in the entire time doing this podcast. Like that's fantastic. That's absolutely amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that all of that came from asking what you're working on next. Do you know what I mean? God
Oh
knows
yeah,
it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Just we'll catch up again in a few months' time, and I can't wait to hear what you're working on then. My God,
Yeah.
um, excellent. Right, well, I tell you what, let's head into a quick fire round here. As I said, these are just silly questions that are just have no bearing on anything whatsoever. It's just for a bit of crack.
Okay.
So, if you could only, and I actually I have to admit, I asked ChatGPT for these, and I've not actually looked at them. So this is a brand new set of questions that no one else has ever had before.
Right.
So there might be some really shy questions in here, but sure, we'll roll with it. We'll see what we can do. So, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Um, can I change that to 2? I mean, if I okay, fine, I'll do 1. It would be dark chocolate. Yeah, no
Dark
question.
chocolate. What would the other one be?
The other one would be oats. They're my 2 favorite ever foods, and I could probably if I really needed to, I could survive off them. I just love those 2.
Could you have dark chocolate oats?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. The 2 of them
Oh, that's your favorite thing. Okay, grand. So yeah, well, dark chocolate oats
yeah,
is your one food.
yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I think I might have asked that question to someone before and they said something along the lines of like TGI Fridays because that somehow counts as food, but you can get
Wow,
loads of different things
well,
or
that's quite
something.
clever, to be honest. Maybe I should have said something like a type of cuisine, and that would have covered a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or like Chinese or something, like because that
Yeah.
covers so much stuff. Like they've got KFC in China. Do you know what I mean? So
Oh,
like, does that? Do you know what I mean? It's quite outside the box thinking, but
yeah.
hey ho. Right. What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
Oh, I know this is so awful, but, like, I just can't think. I'm just gonna have to pass that question because someone asked me this the other day, and I don't know if it's because maybe the embarrassing things that have happened to me, my brain has cleverly eradicated them. Um, so I just can't think what it would be right now.
You're just too cool for embarrassment. I love that. I love that. Fair play to you. Own that. Don't ever admit to being embarrassed. Own it. It's like, meant to do that. Meant to do it. Here we go. Here's a good one for you. Right. If you could have dinner with any celebrity, who would it be, and what would you ask them?
Um,
Someone that you haven't met,
someone that I haven't met.
or it could be someone that you have met, and you have a really, really annoying, very specific question that only they can answer. So whichever way you want to look at that.
Okay. To be honest, I mean, this isn't a celebrity. This is a well-known cellist.
Okay.
And I think his playing is just really fascinating and really cool. It's quite unique.
Uh-huh.
He's called Stephen Braun. And
Okay.
I just remember seeing his videos on YouTube when I was younger, and he really inspired me. And he just uses the cello in a very different way. He's amazing at playing jazz. He uses technology. He uses I think loop pedals and just all sorts of cool techniques. And I would love to just talk to him about how he is able to play the cello in all those ways, because I just think it's fascinating and so cool, and I would want to totally learn from him. So I think that would be the one I'd have to go for.
Very, very sensible answer. Very, very sensible answer. And now I'm going to finish off with my favorite quickfire question of all time, and it is not sensible in any way, shape, or form, but it's quite similar to the last one.
Right.
What celebrity would you like to fight?
Fight.
You're going to call someone out and you're going to knock them out. Who do you want to do? You don't even have to dislike them. I always tell people you don't have to dislike them. It could be like someone that you really, really look up to, and you're just like, here, hey. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe, okay, this is kind of a ridiculous answer.
Love it. Go for it.
I think it would maybe be Wim Hof.
Wim Hof,
Because
the cold.
he's massive, right?
Yeah.
So it would just be really interesting to kind of fight and fight this massive person and just feel the strength of him, because I can't, he's so strong and like quite unique, and I just, I mean, I'm not expecting that that I would win the fight, but I think I would hope he would be gentle with me and we'd have a more of an equal grounding. But yeah, maybe him.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, you could tip the odds in your favor in that, saying, right, Wim, I'll meet you in like the car park of Tesco in Dubai, where it's nice and hot, and he'd be fucked because he's used to being so cold. He'd be like, oh my God, it's like so hot. What the fuck am I going to do? And you're like, haha.
Yeah.
Surprise, babe. You know what I mean? So there you go. Okay, Wim Hof. Of all the people you could have said, I never would have expected him. But that's he is the cold lad, isn't he? He's the lad that like jumps into the water and freezes. Yeah, okay, I'm getting it right. Yeah, that's cool. That's great crack altogether. That's absolutely fantastic. Really quick, Isobelle, before we finish up, then where can people find you online if they need you to play cello for their whatever?
Yeah. So my website, Instagram, and YouTube are all so my Instagram and YouTube are both my handle is Isobelle Austin, spelled Isobelle. That's an unusual spelling of Isobelle, and then Austin, Austin. And then my website is isobelleaustin.com, spelled in the same way. And my email is on my website. It's also you can find it through Instagram, and I think I probably have it on YouTube as well. So if you can email me, or you can use my contact form on my webpage, or you can Instagram direct message me, whatever's more comfortable for anyone who wants to be in touch.
Isobelle, it's been an absolute treat having you on today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That was the Music Career Show. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends about the Music Career Show.